Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios and brought to you by our official sponsor, the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's The Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We're here with a terrific gentleman who is the son of a beloved actor, comedian who appeared on the Carol Burnett Show, a number of Mel Brooks movies, and also voiced the Flintstones and many other wonderful projects. And once you hear the name, you'll find out why. He's been in business for 20 years and experienced in entertainment industry, working with a number of artists, brand building, and also re- and representation and more. And he's also graduated from Lesley College and Cambridge, Massachusetts, in theater history. He later, took up management in Colorado Mountain College. He's worked with Stoller Films in 21 as a consultant and co-executive producer on Euphoric Tendencies. We'll talk more about that. He's also talent scout, media consultant with Sherry Thorne Productions, and he has a new book out, which is a loving memoir about his famous father. We'll tell you who it is in just 1 minute. Live, ladies and gentlemen, in Plus Studios in beautiful downtown Los Angeles. Well, in the case, whatever stays in Vegas, stays in Vegas, but this time we're going to have to flip the script here. We have the son of a beloved actor and from the Carol Burnett Show, Mel Brooks movies like History of the World, Blazing Saddles, and more. And if you mention the name, you're going to really love this guy, the son of Harvey Korman, the multi-talented Chris Korman. Chris, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Mike, for having me on. I'm glad that Clinton and April told me all about your show. And it's funny that I kind of knew who you were before they told me about you because I had heard your show. And they said, "Oh, have you done Mike Wagner's show?" I'm like, "Oh my God, really?" And I see your profile already up. I'm thinking, I'm thinking of all the radio shows that I have reached out to. You're the one that I had not reached out to, and I don't know why. I should have. But sometimes you can connect with people on LinkedIn. Sometimes you can't. Depends on like if you're in the premiere section or, So yeah, I don't know why I didn't get a chance to reach out to you. But April and Clinton said, "Oh, you should reach out to Mike." I'm like, "I'm going to." So I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate you responding the way you did, as quickly as you did. So thank you for that.
Mhm. And we're certainly glad you did. April and Clinton, very wonderful people. She's a great ventriloquist and,
He is.
caught her shows and everything like that. And of course, she's been on TV and YouTube and everything like that. And I'm trying to get out to Vegas to catch her act and all that. And, maybe if somebody sent me some Raiders tickets on the 50-yard line, or maybe Santa Rice for the Golden Knights, or maybe, whoever's playing baseball, basketball, and everything like that. And of course, I've been a fan of the Carol Burnett Show for quite some time. And I love Harvey Korman, Tim Conway, and the crew. It's like that was our thing we loved watching on CBS during the heyday. And big Mel Brooks fan, History of the World, silent movie, and
Nope.
high
High
anxiety.
anxiety,
Yeah, high
Blazing Saddles,
anxiety. Yes,
History of
yes.
the World Part One, and Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Oh yeah, that was another one. That was a good
That
one.
was his
And
last one.
and also too that I also love Spaceballs. That was one of my favorites. So yeah.
My dad wasn't in that one, but he was a
Ah,
good.
darn it. You know something? There was something missing about that movie. Now I know why. And maybe we have like, he can probably say, use the Schwartz or something like that. So
May the Schwartz be with you.
yes, and also with you. And of course, you also have your book called OMG. It's Harvey Korman's son. We'll talk more about that. And of course, you're a son of beloved actor, comedian Harvey Korman and Carol Burnett Show, Mel Brooks, and more. And you've been in business for 20 years, believe it or not, entertainment industry, working with a number of artists, branding, representation, and you also graduated from Lesley College and also Colorado Mountain College. You worked with Solar Films in 21. You're also working with Euphoric Tendencies, and your new book is a very loving memoir about your amazing father. It's not just about him and Carol Burnett or in Mel Brooks, being a father, a golfer, loves to eat with Tommy Lasorda, and most importantly, come up in baseball season, the Los Angeles Dodgers. And before getting all that about the book, Chris, tell us how you first got started.
Well, here's the thing about when you are the son of a famous person, you have the resources that I have bestowed upon me. I feel I don't think it's an obligation. Maybe it is to use those resources to help artists that don't benefit from my name. And I don't say that in an arrogant way, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying I was privileged to be his son, honored to be his son. So why not use his resources to help artists? Because a lot of PR people, they charge an arm and a leg. Well, my attitude was this: if you, let's say you have a one-man show going on in Chicago,
Hmm.
you don't if you don't need me in September if the show's not going off until May. Why are you
Right.
going to pay me to promote your show when show's not going to it's not going to start until May?
Hmm.
Well, you need me when you need me. So my whole attitude is when people hire me or ask me for my services, I'll say, look, you got a movie coming out. You need me for this block of time. You need this. You need this block of time for me for this. Why are you going to pay me if you don't need me? That's stupid.
Hmm.
So I tell people if I charge you per week, that's all I need is money for per week. That's
Hmm.
all they need from me for that week. Oh, so I tell people, look, the point isn't for them to go broke, and I'm not about to exploit their career aspirations for selfish gain because I wouldn't want to shame my father because he used his name to help people when he was alive. What better thing for me to do is to take his name to help people that he's gone? How can I honor him? So if I can do that in that way, and so I just started reaching on Mike on Facebook and LinkedIn and said, look, I'm Chris Korman, this is who I am. Can I use my connections in media and press to help elevate your brand? And I'm very transparent about it because a lot of people, have their head in everybody's pocket these days.
Oh my
And I say,
gosh.
look,
Yeah.
if you can, if it's like there's a difference between being magnanimous and being exploitive. I'm happy to help if I can. Yes, I'm married and I have a child. If I could provide for my family, that's frosting on the top of the cake.
Hmm.
But I go into it saying, look, if I can help you, one phone call is not going to cost me anything, Mike. One email is not going to cost me anything. So why not do it? I'm still having to promote my book. So my 2 or 3 phone calls because I need to promote my book. Then I say, hey, can you help Mike Wagner? Can you help April? Can you help Clinton? Why not do that? And so I have a lot of people on Facebook, a lot of actors and actresses who I accessed because they either knew who my father was, they knew who he was, they have a book out, they have something going. I said, hey, let's just contact me. If I can help, I will. And that's kind of how I got started. And that's how I work now is I work from a need on a need um, platform.
Hmm. Right.
And
So basically you're just working with alternative platforms like and so your traditional route you go, it's like you go alternative platforms where people have never gone before and people
right.
are looking, just for one break and everything else. And you got all that. And what was it one precise moment that simply influenced you into what you're doing for the rest of your career?
Um, Well, I think this is really kind of strange. I'll tell you, the one of the things that made me just thought this was a doable thing was I was talking to Joanne Gleason, who was Into the Woods on Broadway. Her
Hmm.
father is Monty Hall, and I'm talking to her on Facebook, and I mentioned to her that she was on Hello Larry with McLean Stevenson, who was one of my dad's dearest friends. So I
McLean
said,
Stevenson, I remember him. Uh-huh.
right. So I said to Miss Gleason, I said, I'm Chris Korman, I'm Harvey Korman's son. Oh my God, our fathers knew each other, blah, blah, blah. I see that you're at Feinstein's in New York. This is pre-COVID. And I said, can I use my platform? Not that you need my name because you're a Broadway Tony winner, but I feel like to engage somebody of your caliber is an honor of mine. And she said, Chris, it's very kind of you to want to offer your connections. Well, I mean, that's very sweet of you, but you don't really know me. It's like, well, we all kind of know each other in this business. Your father was a friend of my father's, and and so if I can funnel some of the connections that I have because I have a book out, and she's like, oh my God, you have a book out? I'm like, yeah. So I told her about the book, and then I started telling her about all these podcasts that I've been on, and said, can I funnel you to these podcast people? And it just became where now I correspond with her, Mike, on Facebook, and she says, will you please call me Joanne? I'm like, I can't call you Joanne Gleason. I got to call you Miss Gleason. You're Joanne Gleason. I'm Chris Korman. And I feel like I'm not on the same platform as you. It's like, because you're very modest, but your father is an icon in this business. I see, but yeah, he is. I'm not. And I respect you enough, Miss Gleason, to call you Miss Gleason. It's because how long have we been corresponding for? Is it only 4 years? Please call me Joanne. I'm like, I can't grasp that I'm talking to Joanne Gleason.
Hmm.
And because I respect the boundary lines that these are performers, but these also people are human beings and they have lives outside of what they do.
Hmm.
And I respect that because I know what that's like.
Hmm.
So I was very humble and gracious and say, look, you probably don't need my help, but if I can help and I can use my connections, but I'll tell you, here's what's odd about this business. Like you would think a lot of performers can self-promote. A lot of them can't. They expect
Right. Or
the
or
art person
or
to
it's
do
like
it.
they fear the wrong way, say the wrong thing and everything like
Right.
that. And they think, you can have all this money like Taylor Swift, that's a big thing where it's like she thinks she can do it herself, but it's like, her mom and dad, make millions and everything like that. And it's also gotten, and it's kind of like mixed reviews and everything. And then you've got people out there, or even like go back to Bill Murray, who promotes himself, and Jay Leno, it's just like, hey, you want me on your show? Want me to do something for you? I'm just a phone call away.
Right. But it almost, I think a lot of performers have said this to me, Mike, and it sounds funny coming from a performer, is if they do it, it sounds like self-promotion. If they have a publicist do it, then it seems like it's filtered through a little bit more humility. That if
Mhm.
I'm having somebody else promote me, I'm like, but you know what? If you can't promote you, how do you expect somebody else to do it though? If
Right.
you don't believe in your brand, how do you expect another performer to believe in your brand? I mean, and that's another thing that I learned from my father was you're in a certain slot in this business, whether you're Carol Burnett or Larry Hagman or whoever, or John Ritter, and you're in a certain slot in this business. How do you make that? How do you create a niche for yourself compared to everybody else? How do you make yourself peerless? Is that you have to give what I call it um, a marketing theory or credo is you don't give the audience what they want. You give them what they can't live without.
Mhm. Right.
It's the undefinable X factor that makes somebody a star, that makes somebody a brand, an entity. And I tell this to performers all the time on Facebook, even the ones that are really big. If you can't pitch yourself, if you can't articulate the essence of what you have to offer, how do you expect your agent to do it? How do you expect your publicist to do it?
Mhm.
But see, but in their mind is, oh, it sounds like it's self promotion. Of course it is. You're a product. You're an entity. You're like Volvo. You're like Rolls Royce. You're an entity. You're a brand.
Mhm.
And you have to be able to articulate that on social media, on radio, or on TV. Yes, it's okay to have a publicist. It's okay to have an agent, a manager. Okay, but if you're asking to do it, but you don't believe in your own brand, you're sending a mixed message.
Mhm.
You're saying you want your agent to collect his 10%, or 10% of what?
Mhm. Right.
What
I
is
I
he sending? What is he sending you out on? If the agent's not sending you on anything, it's because he doesn't believe that you can play that role. It's because you have not articulated you want that role. Then what is he collecting? 10% of nothing.
Mhm.
So
Right. Yeah. And of course there's a lot of people out there that are gun shy about it. And of course with
yeah,
some of the social influencers, they grew up where it's just like they don't know how to interact with people. It's like,
that's
their
true.
best way interacting, to interact with phones,
Right,
Instagram, TikTok, and everything. And they can
right.
make, silly videos and all that, but face to face, that's where they fall flat.
They do, and you think they would be good at it, but a lot of performers. If you look at the Tonight Show, there are a lot of performers that never went on the Tonight Show because they didn't want to break that fourth wall, that perception of if I start talking to Carson and I come off like an idiot, that ruins my brand on screen. So a lot of performers would never go on the Tonight Show because they didn't want to hurt their career. Because some people are not. I mean, it's funny to say this, but Carson, when the red light was on, he was there. He was present. The red light would go off. He would smoke a cigarette. He wouldn't talk to the guest. He would turn off. And a lot of performers only they save their magic. They save the magic for when the red light goes off. and then
Hmm.
they go back into their shell, and then they come back out when it's magic time. Well, because so many people want a piece of you that you have to save some of your soul to just survive this business. So you know, if an actor comes off standoffish, it's probably because they're very insecure too. And you wouldn't think that, but a lot of performers are insecure. Johnny Carson was very shy. So people wouldn't think that.
Hmm.
But so um so yeah, so I figured with my resources, if I can help writers, directors, performers in Chicago and New York or LA, whatever,
Hmm.
um, I figured that is the best way to honor my father, and I do it because I love it.
Hmm.
And if you do what you love, you never have to work a day in your life.
I think we're
So,
all taking on Geico as well too. I wish we're all lizards at this one point. You love what you do, you have to work a day in your life, or just don't call it work. So we have that,
right,
and
exactly.
and of course you also alluded to the fact too that people have a tough time separating from the person who you are on screen, TV,
That's
radio,
true.
commercials, and everything. But your dad did it really well. Being a father, going to parent teacher conferences, or taking you golfing, or even going out for ice cream, going out to McDonald's, or having a hot dog, or eating with Tommy Lasorda, or going to a Dodgers baseball game. It's like, he has that human side where it's like, I can be funny, I can make people laugh. I enjoy being with Carol Burnett, Tim Conway, and just enjoy Mel Brooks' company, and just everything like
Well,
that. But at the same time, it's like, I can be a father just like everybody else, go out to eat like everybody else, and say, go Dodgers, or you stink, and all that, like every other family.
right. Well, it's funny you mentioned about the parent-child conferences because for those who read the book will read that I grew up with a learning disability and a learning challenge, which is the clinical diagnosis that I have a delay in the learning process. I learn a little bit slower than others. And if you went to a parent-child conference, let me tell you, I've never seen so many teachers scared out of their you know what. Because my father was deadpan. He was, I'm a father today. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not a performer. I'm an advocate for my son's well being.
Hmm.
And my father knew more about the American Disabilities Right than the teachers on the other side of the table. And one of the things he taught me early on, it's the same thing about the acting thing. If you can't articulate the essence of what you need as a student in college, high school, whatever, how can you expect someone to advocate for you if you don't believe in who you are? If you can't articulate your strengths and your weaknesses are, how can you expect me to?
Hmm. Right.
If he's on the other side of the table with the teacher, he's saying, well, Chris needs more help with this or more. Those teachers were like, oh, okay, they got it really quickly. This wasn't Mr. Funny haha guy. This was serious father time.
Hmm.
And he laid the groundwork for me, Mike, to say, look, if you have to be your own self advocate. And with the level of veracity that he would to protect me, I had to get to a point where like I had to match that level of commitment eventually because someday who was going to do it for me? He couldn't. He was going to die. Who
Right.
was to do it? I had to do it. But he had to show me how to do it the right way, in a respectful way. You could be right without making someone wrong. You could say, this is my learning skill. This is how I learn. These are the tools I need to learn. Can you please help me? If you come from that position, then it's not me against you. It's hey, these are the tools I need. I need the skill to provide that for me. And so I had a golf tournament for 22 years with children with learning disabilities
Hmm.
at Frostig School, which is mentioned in the book. So we're at Stouffer's Esmeralda in Palm Springs, and we're in this dining room. Who's in the room? Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale and Vince Scully are in the same room. Now you
How
would
do you
think
like that?
oh my God, Mike, you think my dad was the kid in a candy store. So Sandy is describing his 1965 no-hitter versus the Cubs. And people were, I mean, he had them regaling. I mean, my dad was salivating to listen to this. And everybody wants to talk about Blazing Saddles and Carol Burnett Show. My dad's like, I don't care about any about that. He wanted Sandy to tell the whole story. And we're sitting there talking to Drysdale, and it was just, my dad was like a big kid. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, who else would have the opportunity to talk to Vince Scully Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale in one night and have them come up to you and say, "It's really nice to meet you, Chris. Thank you for inviting me to your golf tournament." I'm like, "You know who I am? You're talking to me? You're a god. I'm just this kid who's the son of Harvey Korman. What do I know?" Um, but see, that's the miraculous thing. I got to meet Joe Williams, the great black singer who performed with Count Basie in Hawaii.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I
I would
love him.
never, in my wildest dreams, would think I could engage people of this caliber on my own. But for them to say, "Oh my God, your father's Harvey Korman," and they become a fan of, they're a fan of your father's, I'm like, wait a minute, you know who my father is? So it is a generational thing. I'm 56 years old. I grew up with John Ritter. I grew up with Billy Crystal. Television was in the 80s was different. The 70s was different.
Mm-hmm.
But I can honestly say this, and I say that if I better say it now because I'm probably going to forget saying it at the end. I can honestly say this, Mike. Even if my father had not been my father, he still would have been my favorite performer.
Oh yes, yes.
Because I don't think the only person that makes me think of my dad nowadays, there's two: Victor Garber, who did Damn Yankees, and David Hyde Pierce from Frasier.
Mm-hmm.
My dad and David both studied with famed acting teacher Uta Hagen. And I always thought David Hyde Pierce was the Harvey Korman of Frasier because he made everybody else around him better. Even though Carol was a star and Kelsey was a star, I always felt like David, because of his mind interpretation, always made everything funnier. I felt like the writers wrote to David's strengths, and it made the whole show funnier. I always felt like the writers on the Burnett Show made the show great because my dad made Carol funnier, made everybody funnier because of his classical training. Because without going off on a tangent, my dad went to Goodman's Theater. He studied with Uta Hagen, and he was trained as a classical actor. His idol was Laurence Olivier,
Huh.
and
That's
he actually got to meet his idol once. Um, and that's another story for a therapy session. Uh, but
I was gonna say I have a really good Sir Lawrence Olivier story. I was reading about the book Tell It to the King, Larry King's. It's like back in the 70s, and Sir Lawrence Olivier was in queue, and then when they had a break, he turns to one of the guys, goes, "What a you good English beer." And it just made everybody laugh.
he was very dry sense of humor, from what my dad told me. Now, the story goes, Laurence Olivier is an audience of the Burnett Show. I don't think CBS knew it. I don't think they knew that he was showing up. So there's a buzz all over CBS that Laurence Olivier is in the building. He comes to the taping of the Burnett Show. And this is the one night my dad should have stayed at home. This is one sketch that I'm sure my dad liked to forget. There's a old man sketch with him at a butcher shop, and my dad's pants are supposed to pull off, and he's supposed to have little hearts and flowers on his pants. Instead, in between sketches, in between shows, my father did not change his underwear. So when he pulled his pants off, his own underwear was on, and he flashed Laurence Olivier. So after the show, they said, "Harvey, you won't believe who's in the audience." Like Laurence Olivier. My dad said, "Oh God." They had to peel my father off the carpet, I'm sure. No, I don't want to meet him. Not after that. No way. And Lawrence Olivier came backstage and said, "Hart, I've been watching you for years. I'm a big fan of yours." My father could not grasp that his idol knew who he was. It blew my father away, which goes to my issue of we think or we assume that everybody in this business can do what everybody else does. That's a fallacy. We
Hmm.
assume that dramatic actors can do sketch comedy and vice versa. Now, my dad could do both because he was trained to do both. Because he was trained to approach comedy, even if it was farce or satire. He always approached it as an actor doing comedy, not a comedian. He
Hmm.
always played the truth. And one of the things I try to do, I convey if I do actors mentoring groups is don't play the absurdity, play the truth of the moment for yourself. Because my dad said the way they wrote on the Burnett Show was you had conflict, you had resolution, you had plot, but you had to have character. If you play the truth of the absurdity, it's funnier. But if you're going to indicate or make faces or mug to the camera, okay, I'm doing the punchline now, everybody get ready, you're diluting the moment. You're taking away from the power of the moment. And that's one of the things I learned from my father is you always play the truth of the moment. So that's something that he learned at Goodman Theater. He studied with Udo Hagen. So one of the things I'm trying to do within my book and trying to create a mentorship opportunities online with theater programs, and I'm going to certainly explore Chicago, Milwaukee, is to impart that my father didn't become famous because he became famous. Fame is a byproduct of being so peerless in what you do that you're the measuring stick for everybody else in that world. And my dad was known, and he'll begrudge this. He hated the term Mike. He didn't like the term, but he was known for it. He was one of the best sketch comedians in the business. Or you can say Sid Caesar, you can say Carl Reiner, you can say all of them. I think my dad was one of the best, and I'm biased, but whatever.
I mean, rightfully so. You've been around him for a long time, and
Right.
everything else you know all better too. And there was another one I was going to mention, Peter Marshall from the Hollywood Squares. I
Yes,
remember that. Yes.
he wrote the foreword to my book along with Carol, and I've known Peter my whole life. He and his wife Lori Marshall are still dear to me, and Peter was the type of person that, see, most people don't know this. Peter started off as a singer, and his real name is Ralph LaPierre Lecoq.
Ralph Pierre Lecoq. Okay, that name sounds familiar because his son played for the Cubs,
Yes,
Pete
Pete
Lecoq,
Lecoq.
one of my
Right.
favorite players back in the day. Pete
Really?
Lecoq, I loved him.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
So, Peter has one of the great voice. Now, here's one of those stories that you go, there's a leap here. 81 or 82, my dad was asked to tour in La Cage Fall. And my dad was about to have his third child. And he couldn't really commit to a national tour. When you're about to have a child, you can't do that. So the producer said, well, who would have a great voice? I said, well, my dad said, I have a great voice, but I don't have a better voice than Peter Marshall. You should ask Peter Marshall to do this because he's got a much better voice. And second of all, I'm tired of doing shows where the center idea of the show is cross-dressing. I've had it up to here with the cross-dressing.
I don't blame him.
So I'm at Peter and Lori's house in LA, and I mentioned that my dad had passed on La Cage Fall. And Lori said, thank God, because that's how Peter and I met.
How do
Because
you
of
like
La Cage
that?
Fall. So we're talking, and Lori and Peter said, oh, we're going to go over to see Artie Johnson and his wife Gisela. I said, Lori and Peter, you know this, that Artie is a distant relative on my dad's side of the family.
How do you like that?
So, and Lori's like, Peter's like, how do we not know that? I'm like, I didn't know you didn't know that. I just assumed you knew that. And so, unfortunately, Artie died a couple years ago of a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. But yeah, Peter Marshall holds a place in my heart that's very, very dear, as does Ken Berry, John Ritter, and Betty White. Because it was who they were as people beyond who they were as performers. Here you have this little kid with buck teeth and red hair. They didn't have to give you the time of day if they didn't want to. If they were in any way exposed to me because of who my father was. They gave me enough respect to treat me with respect. But and this is not a story for me to say how great I am. This was to show who great they were. I'm at Hollywood Squares, and they would do 5 shows a day. They would do 2 shows and then a dinner break. And I'm here, I have buck teeth, red hair, and Jack Klugman starts talking to me. I'm like, why did Jack Klugman talk to me? I'm nobody to him. He doesn't know who I am, unless he knew that I was Harvey's son. And Jack said, how's school, Chris? He starts talking to me like I'm a friend of his. How you doing, Chris? How's school? And I'm thinking, Jack Klugman's talking to me. And I became, a couple of years later ago, I became friends with his son, Adam Klugman, on YouTube. And I told Adam this story about how your dad was a mensch of a human being to me. He didn't have to be. He always treated, every time he saw me, he always gave me a hug.
Nice.
Hey, Chris, how are you doing? And I'm like, and Adam said, I've never heard this story, Chris. I said, thank you for sharing that because it means a lot to me that my father treated you with respect, with all the struggles you've had, that my dad took time to treat you as a human being. And that mattered more to Adam. And that's what mattered to me is that Adam cared more about how I interpreted his father than, oh, he was just making me laugh the whole day. It was that he treated me like a human being. He made me feel that I was equal to him.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam said, I can't believe I've never heard this story before. He said, Ryan, we never met until now. So I just want to tell you what your father meant to me. And we just started crying. I started crying, but
Wow.
because Jack didn't have to be that way with me. And yet he is so there, present as a human being. And that's what endeared me to Jack Lemmon, Jack Lemmon as well. Jack Lemmon was very dear to me, and as his son is Chris. And I tell Chris the whole time, every time I saw your dad, hey, Chris, how you doing? Hey, come sit with me. Tell me how school's going. But never talk down to me because of my learning disability. They always talked up at me. And that always gave me a sense of self-worth, a sense of, oh, my disability, they didn't define me by my disability.
Mm-hmm.
They treat me as a human being, not a poster child for a social cause. And so when you have that kind of life and the opportunity to be exposed to that, those are the memories that I cherish. Sitting at a Dodger game with my father, him teaching me about an eighth inning switch where lefty versus righty, eating popcorn, eating potato chips, him telling me and explaining the nuances of the game. That time with my father is just, it's priceless for me. I cherish it beyond. And from Vin Scully to eulogize my father as a memorial,
Oh my gosh, that's
the,
amazing.
the thing had to be 25 minutes long, at least. And it helped, and it really got through, it helped me get through my day. And I wrote a letter, Bill Platsky, who's a sports writer for the LA Times, I told him about this. And I said, if you could get a note to Mr. Scully on my behalf, just tell him what that eulogy meant to me, how it helped me get through that day. Just please tell him. And he did. And he got to Mr. Scully on my behalf. Because you don't take those moments like that for granted.
Right, exactly. Yes.
The city
Yes.
didn't have to do that for him. And so to have the greatest baseball announcer in history to eulogize your father is so surreal to me. It is mind-boggling. And but then I start thinking, God, I always saw him as a father. I couldn't understand the full totality of his career that people like Lawrence Living knew who he was, or Paul Newman knew he was, or his idols knew who he was. He had lunches with Cary Grant 3 or 4 times. And Cary says, "I'm one of your biggest admirers, Harvey." Cary Grant knew who my father was. It's like it blew his mind.
it,
My
it,
dad
it,
always
it seems like he should have been the opposite of idolizing him, but I guess the thought that comes to my mind is like, what is that secret ingredient? What's that special trait that
right,
has all the big stars? Mel Brooks, Sir Lawrence
right.
Olivier, Karen Grant, and all the others. Just say, "Hey, I admire you." It's like, what is that one special trait that just says, "Hey, I know you," or even let's say even a Bob Hope or Steve Martin or oh gosh, maybe like I think just countless, to be honest with you.
Right, there are, but it's the fact that they're human beings first that makes them that they're accessible as people. They're not like, look how great I am. Um, because my dad says, if you're secure with who you are, you don't have to let everybody know that you're in the room. My dad used to say the difference between an actor and an artist is an artist doesn't have to tell you that they're in the room. Their body of work speaks for itself. An
True.
actor has to come up to you and say, "Oh, but did you see my Pepto-Bismol commercial?" Like,
Oh, that
like,
made me sick to my stomach watching that
right,
Pepto Bismol.
right. So, like, if you have to be told, if you have to tell somebody in the room that you're an actor, then you're not really an actor.
Hmm.
and to remind people what your vocation in life is, then you're not doing your vocation in life. And um, so yeah, so much of the book, so much of my life is, weaved through special education and theater and baseball. And because like I said, there has to be a balance. Your life can't just be a one thing. It can't just be about show business. You have to have a life outside of what your vocation is. You have to have, because it makes you more well-rounded, it makes you more interesting as a person.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
Right, that's exactly it. And of course, we'll talk a little bit more Dodgers baseball and
you will.
baseball season's coming up and our love for food. And you also took place in a couple of sports. We'll find out in just 1 minute with the amazing Chris Korman and the book OMG, it's Harvey Korman's son. So I'd first listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews, and Eve 11 enjoys by Howard celebrities, including Jonah Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and Eminem. So grab your copy today for Goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com or 40 podcast platforms. Heard in 100 countries, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, also Anchor FM, Odyssey, Apple, iTunes, Google Play, BitChute, Rumble, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, follow on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, and more. Tickets with you on any mobile device. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. Makes great gifts 24/7, 365. Family, friends, your beloved pets, loved ones. Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia for great books like Missing, Once and Wrinkles. Also t-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, phone cases, and more. Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. Check it out today. And support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. You hear the amazing, multi-talented Chris Korman, the son of beloved actor, comedian Harvey Korman, and the book OMG, it's Harvey Korman's son here on the Mike Wagner Show. And, continue on with a bit of the book as well, too. And before we talk about baseball, which is coming up, or if you happen to listen to it after the Dodgers kick things off. And I mean, all about baseball. You love golf. There's skiing, and of course, you love food. That's a sport itself. What's your favorite?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a famous restaurant in LA called Nate and Al's, which is a Jewish delicatessen. And anybody who's there, anybody in show business, I mean, all the great comedians go down there. Dan Murray would go there, Shecky Green, Shelley Berman was there. All these people would go there. It's a very well known in Beverly Hills. So Jewish fare is usually my favorite. I like Italian, but I like knishes. I like bagels and cream cheese and lox and onion and knishes and gefilte fish. Because I grew up with that kind of food. I think I used to joke and say, people will say, what's your name? And I think the majority of my childhood, I think my name was Try This.
Here, try this. Here, try that. Did you have a brother named Try That or something?
Right. So when you see my father play Mother Marcus on the Burnett Show, that basically was his mother. Because she had a love for people. But to my father, food was love. Baseball was love. That's how you bonded. That's how you connected with him, was through love and through food and the love of food and the appreciation for great food. So watching a ball game and eating, that was a tradition my father loved. And so food is something that I learned because I also grew up with people who read the book will see that my stepfather, George DiCenzo, played Vincent Bugliosi in Helter Skelter.
Really? Wow.
Yes. And he's the one that hits Michael J. Fox with the car in Back to the Future 1. That's my
I like that.
So George was Italian, so I had an Italian stepfather that was a gourmet cook. So either it was Italian or Jewish food all the time. So, um, so I learned to be around really great food at an early age. So I got spoiled by being around gourmet people who love cooking and who love eating. So George, my father, let's put it this way: I'm not thin from from this palm down. I'm like the Hindenburg with ears, um, because you can go to a Dodger game, Mike, and not get a Dodger dog, an ice cream sandwich, potato chips or fries. But they had the thing called the spicy dog, which I don't know if they have them anymore. They've redone their menu there at Dodger Stadium. It's been many years since I've been. But they had a Dodger dog, Mike. That was a spicy dog. It was a onion roll on a grilled hot dog with mustard and relish and onions, and it was the best hot dog. It was like a gourmet hot dog. Best hot dog I've ever
Mm.
had.
Yeah, just like Chicago dogs at Wrigley
Yes.
Field, Oregon, New York, and there's a story I share too that I was actually at Dodger game, Dodger Stadium, 1978. It was around July when they played the last place Atlanta Braves. I had one of those Dodger dogs, and it would taste better if they won, but too bad Dale Murphy hit a home run the ninth to win
Uh,
it for the Braves. But I'll tell you one thing, those Dodger dogs were just excellent, peanuts,
they
popcorn,
were.
and everything else. Yes.
So yeah, we would go down to the locker room, and I got to meet Garvey and Say and Lopes and Valenzuela, and Tommy would always say, "Come here, Chris, come here," and he'd always make me sit next to him. Yeah, you want a Dodger cap? Get him a Dodger cap. Get him whatever he wanted. And so I was 14 or 15, and I'm taking a picture with him. So I have it on my wall, and I'm looking at it really carefully. Like one day, I'm like, on the left, on the one that my shoulder on this side, on his wall, there's a picture of my father on his wall,
How do
and
you
you can
like
see it,
that?
and you can see it. So my dad and I and Tommy Lasorda are in the same picture, and so that picture holds a very special place in my heart. But one of the things that my father gave me, and I would have brought it over, I didn't think of it until now, is my father dedicated his 1975 Golden Glove to me. Just the world's greatest son, love Dad.
Nice.
He dedicated his Golden Glove to me, um, and that's a very cherished thing for me because my dad didn't have to do that. And came home one day and I see his Golden Glove in my room. But Dad, I didn't win this Golden Glove. You won it. It's like, no, I want you to win because you're a winner to me. And that when your own father says that to you, how do you not feel like $1,000,000?
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things he instilled in me is because you have all the struggles that you have in your world. And we all have them. We all have shortcomings, weaknesses, strengths, whatever. The only my credo that I will tell you this, and I hope you live by it, the only time you fail in life, the only time you disappoint me is when you don't try.
That's
I
true.
time
I've
you
heard that a
fail,
lot. The one time you fail, you don't try. That is true.
right.
I've heard that a lot.
So he said, so if you are using me as a scapegoat for not trying because you think I'm the measuring stick based on what I've achieved, and you use it as a crutch, you have no one else to blame when you underachieve. You only have yourself to blame because I didn't set the bar for you. You set the bar for you. I'm not asking to live to my expectations of what Harvey Korman achieved. I'm saying you have to achieve to your greatest strengths and what your value is. And because so much of my life, Mike, it would have been very easy, and there are times I think there's a level of ambivalence I have being his son. It has its pros, it has its cons.
Right.
But it would have been very easy for me to use that as a crutch and say, well, why should I try to achieve to my greatest potential? I have a father. I'm never ever going to live up to that. And I thought, wait a minute, why would I want to live up to somebody who spent the majority of my childhood dressed up in women's clothing? I said, I joke about it, but I said, but he was a performer because he could be. That was his domain. That was his niche. That wasn't mine. If my criteria or my platform is special ed, fine, make the best of that world. If I'm a PR person for an artist, be the best I can be in that world. Or if
Hmm.
I work I worked in the field of elder care, working with the elderly. Make that my domain. Make that my niche. Let's just be the best at it. And so he really, that's a life credo he instilled in me in my lifetime is the only time in life you ever fail, Chris, is when you don't try.
Mm-hmm.
Look where you are now. You're married, you have a child because you believed in yourself. You believed in what your value was to other people, to yourself. If you don't believe in you, how do you expect others to believe in you? If you want Trish to unconditionally love yourself, love you, you have to learn how to unconditionally love yourself, flaws and all. So
Mm-hmm.
those are the things he instilled in me without realizing he instilled in them. Like doing the public speaking and doing the acting, it wasn't to become famous. It was I had to learn how to be more articulate. I couldn't use my LD or the speech impediment as an excuse not to advocate for myself. I had to find my own way of articulating what I needed in order to provide for myself. And if I came off a little unorthodox, fine. But people had to hear the passion to which I defended myself and hear the veracity to which I defend myself and advocate for myself. And my dad said people are going to hear that more than how it's presented. They're going to hear the passion to which you advocate yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was something that also, you know, with the theater arts thing, since LD is so much about retention of information, you say, all right, you get a script on Monday, Chris. Don't take the whole thing in its totality. Take 10 pages at a time. Because he didn't have a photographic memory, Mike. Let me tell you, he get 20 pages on Monday from the Burnett Show. By the time Wednesday came along, it was 20 new pages. So between Monday and Friday, the script, it was like 31 flavors of scripts. It
Oh,
went from
I bet. Yeah, they keep changing,
right,
changing.
right,
And it's like you never know what you get. You could get your favorite flavor of the month or get, like,
right,
say, pistachio. Yeah, like that.
right. But people don't realize this. The Price is Right occupied stage 33 at CBS from Monday to Thursday. The
Oh,
Burnett Show didn't get into stage 33 until Thursday. So they did a dry run, they did blocking, they did whatever. They did the commercials, they did a lot of free recordings, but they didn't get into stage 33 until Thursday. So they had Thursday and Friday to get the show off. So you had to learn your lines fast. They had cuts and my dad did not have a good memory for memorizing, but he had to find a way to learn how to take certain chunks of every script of every day and memorize it. It's because he did summer stock. He learned how to find where the jokes are. He had to get into a rhythm, what they call muscle memory.
mm-hmm.
So those are the type of things that he imparted with me was if you don't have a good memory, do some of the lines on a tape recorder so you can hear it play back.
Oh,
Find
interesting.
ways of exercises of things that you could do to help yourself memorize things. But the number one thing he taught me was if you love what you do, it's not a chore. So I loved doing theater. It was fun for me. Now, the one time I had wished he'd not come to a school play. We're doing a Saturday Night Live sketch, and this is talking about politically incorrectness, and I'm not advocating that you go off and do stupid things like this.
Mm-hmm.
I did because I don't know better, or I'm a 17-year-old kid in high school, and I thought this was just be funny. I wrote a sketch about a Christmas tree lot, and one of the Christmas trees was a little, let's say, gay,
Uh-huh.
and
Or a swell, you know that.
or fey, or
Or
uh,
super, yeah.
right, super, whatever. And I'm thinking, oh God. So one of the nights my dad chooses not to come. This is the night I didn't want him to come because I don't know what he was going to do. Who does he bring with him? One of my favorite people of all time, Dick Van Patten.
Oh my goodness. 8 is enough. Oh my
Yeah, so
goodness.
I'm on the left side of the stage, and where does my dad sit with Dick Van Patten? He sits on the left side of the stage, and I'm looking down. I see Dick Van Patten and my father, and I'm doing this gay Christmas tree lot. I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to live this down. And because people say, oh God, Harvey's son's playing a gay character. Why is that not shocking? Because Harvey cross-dresses on television. Who else would play a gay character but his son? I'm like, oh, crying out loud. I'm never going to live this down.
No.
And Dick and
Well,
my dad were laughing up a storm. And afterwards, he said, Chris, you got all the big laughs in every place because you knew how long to hold for a laugh.
hmm
I can't teach that. I mean, you can't. And I said, you did teach me that. Every laugh you've ever had lasts 7.5 seconds long. He said, how do you know that? Because I would time it. I said, you time my laughs? You don't have anything else better to do? How about homework? How about take out the garbage? You have time to time my laughs? Because I studied him. And I got to the point where I now tell people on Facebook, it sounds strange to say this, but I call him a subtextualist because he subtext all his material. He always filtered it through this brain of his that everything was played as an actor, don't play as a comedian. Always
right.
play the truth. So everything he did, whether it's high anxiety or blazing saddles, whether it's broad or satire or sketch comedy, always play the truth. And he learned that from Lucy. He learned that from Jack Benny. And the first time he did Jack Benny, Jack said, "Oh, Harvey, call me Jack." My dad said, "No, you're a god to me. I could never call you Jack." And Jack said to my father, and I told Mary Benny, Jack's daughter, I relayed that question, the story to her, and Jack was like, "No, Harvey, call me Jack." And my dad's like, "You're a god to me. I could never call you Jack." And Jack said, "We're equals. We're both performers." And my dad says, "I'm not an equal to you. I'm a day player." He said, "No, you're not. You're a performer." And it just blew my father's mind that he was performing with Jack Benny. He got to work with, he did a sketch with Lucy and Buster Keaton once.
That's
I
interesting.
did that for a special about Laurel and Hardy. And
Uh-huh.
it's on YouTube. And there's a scene with Lucy and Buster Keaton and my dad playing a cop, all in mime. And I showed this to him before he died on YouTube, and he said, "I don't remember this." Of course, he said, "I don't remember what I ate for lunch yesterday either." So,
Or how
um,
many cups of coffee like most of us. So
right, and it just blew his mind that Joanna Gleason did the Burnett Show, and there's a sketch with Joanne Woodward playing Eunice's best friend. Now, mind you, Paul Newman is in the booth with the executive director and the producer and Carol's husband, and Paul Newman is sweating profusely. He said, "I can't believe you guys shoot 2 shows in one night in front of a live audience. I could never do a show in live audience." And they're looking at it like, "You're Paul Newman. You can do it. You can do it all." That's a fallacy, Mike. We assume everybody in this business can do
mm,
what everybody
that
else can do.
you're bringing some good points. I like this. It's like, having like, talk about Paul Newman, Jack Benny, and
Right.
all these guys. And of course, Harvey Korman, being associate Carol Burnett and everything, and all the people are just looking up to him. I think you're really shedding some new light on the whole thing where it's like, you think you're mid-tier, but it's like the higher ups just look up to you. It's like you bring up some really good points and teach us some really good lessons as well.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I don't want to sound like I was droning out on about or being look how great my father was, but it's funny about the pecking order about this business. It's like movies, it's like theater, movies, TV, and they all have a certain way they look upon each other as legitimate acting. A theater is you go through the whole thing, that's legitimate acting. Movie is a editor's medium.
hmm
TV is more of a director's medium, I guess. But for legitimate acting, everybody's, "Oh, if you do Broadway, you really made it." My dad never did Broadway because he never wanted to play the same character for 8 months. He always
Right.
wanted to
Yeah.
play,
Night in, night out. If you need a
yeah,
night off, you better make sure understudy does really well or it's
right.
gonna bomb and everything. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
So the idea of playing 8 characters, I mean, he did, was the, the play that Martin Short won the Tony for Little Me, where he plays 8 characters. And my dad did a play, did Little Me in summer stock in Chicago, 8 characters in one night. And my dad said he loved it. It was the thrill of playing 8 characters. 8 different broad characters, all very different. And that's why he said he never liked playing one character. He tried his own sitcoms. My dad had more sitcoms than Donald Trump had lawyers.
or bankruptcies
Or bankruptcies, yeah.
women and all that. So I mean, we can go on and on about that.
Well,
Or a pizza or a Tommy Lasorda's lasagna in honor of him, or
right.
even a cup of coffee like we're about to have. So
Well, between McLean, my father, and Tim, all 3 of them probably had more jobs than Trump had lawyers combined. But you know, my dad, it's like Larry Hagman, it's like John Ritter. You get pigeonholed for playing one role, and everybody, oh, John Ritter, Jack Three's Company, Larry
Right.
Hagman, Alice, or I Dream of Jeannie. My dad kind of got a pigeonhole. Oh, you're Carol Burnett, you're Blazing Saddles, you're Mel and Tim, or Carol. And that's what most of his life is associated with those people. And don't get me wrong, those are great associations.
Mhm.
But I think my father, if there's one thing a performer has regret, is that he never got to do more dramatic roles. And I think he'd wish he had. But the casting people in the business didn't see him as a dramatic role
Mhm.
in roles, a dramatic actor. And I guess that's one of very few resentments that he had as a performer, that he didn't get. He did play Bud Abbott in a TV movie.
Mhm.
Buddy
And,
Hackett.
and also another one too is the Flintstones. That's one of my favorites.
Yes.
He was in that. Yes.
It's amazing that he didn't realize this till you know, the cells that they create, and it became such a cottage industry. They would sign them, and they had all these shows, these cartoon animation shows all over the country, and they're going for $100,000. But they said, why would you want a drawing of a Flintstone cartoon? Because they put them behind glass. Eventually, the paper would deteriorate. Why would you want that?
Mm-hmm.
It became a cottage industry. Everybody wanted them. It's like baseball cards. So my dad was going around for Hanna-Barbera for a couple of years, signing these cells all over the East Coast. And they're going for 100,000 or more. And my dad said, I can't understand it. I only did 13 episodes.
I like that. Yeah. And I remember that very well too. And stuff like that. Somebody's knocking your door too. And of course, another thing you're really good at is well, it's something Tiger Woods plays, and I'm sure you would love to do that. We'll find out his other favorite sport with Chris Korman from OMG. It's Harvey Korman's son. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios, and brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's Missing. We'll be back with the multi-talented Chris Korman of OMG. It's Harvey Korman's son after this time. We're back with Chris Korman, the author of OMG. It's Harvey Korman's son here on the Mike Wagner Show. Learn a lot about your dad, learn about the business, and, you know, having all the people look up. And of course, you know, another one of your passions, and it's also in the book, it's golf. And tell us more about that. And I'm sure you probably, I'm sure if Tiger Woods maybe asked you to golf, I'm sure you play him as well.
Well, I'm not at that level. Because my dad and I had a golf tournament for many years. I got to be on the golf course and drive the golf cart and get in the driver's range with him, and got to drive the golf cart and caddy with him. And I got to caddy with him and McLean Stevenson, who was a good friend of my father's. And but this is one of those surreal moments. I'm in Hawaii. I just turned 18. In one day, I've met Jerry Lewis, Donald O'Connor, Joe Williams in one day. And we're in a lounge area. And I love golf. I mean, but it was just, Jerry Lewis walks in the room. He just had a triple bypass.
Oh, wow.
And he came in doing the whole lady, doing the whole voice. And my dad proceeds to tell Jerry, oh, my son does a great imitation of him. Now I'm doing an imitation of Jerry Lewis in front of Jerry Lewis in a room of like 50 people. And I'm now doing the spastic talk in the voice. And I'm like, oh, lady. I'm like, oh, this has got to be humiliating. So every time I saw somebody on the golf course, it's like, don't ask me to do imitation of Jerry Lewis, please. But I love playing golf because it was just, it's a very cerebral sport. It's a mind game. and it's knowing what clubs to use and all that. I wish I was. I'm good at the driver's range. I wasn't never great at it, but I like the driver's range and the putting. And I got to putt in some of the golf tournaments that I got to be involved with, and I got to putt with my dad, and that was always fun. Um, but yeah, I also like tennis. I also play a lot of tennis in my life. My dad, I used to play doubles a lot together
Hmm.
at home, and going swimming and playing basketball together. And those are the memories that I have. The sports was very much of a bonding resource for me and my father. It was not just going to games, but again, like I said, being able to interact with Joe Morgan, second baseman of the Reds, and Jerry Royce, and all these people. And I guess so much of my bond with my father was baseball. So I was sad. I'm sorry that my dad wasn't around to see the Dodgers win in 2020,
Oh yeah.
or the Cubs winning in 2016.
Hmm. Yes, that's right.
Um,
And it's going to take it's going to take another 109 years for the Cubs to win the World Series. So
well,
109, that's my
no,
prediction. If we do it less than 108, it'd be considered a dynasty.
yeah, well, remember the Dodgers only won one since '88. So, but I don't count the Astros cheating as a championship. Uh,
Oh gosh,
I
it's like
don't,
does anything count with the Astros? I'll tell you.
well,
But
I don't even know why they're in the league anymore. Frankly, they should have been bounced.
I agree. Or it's just like, send it back to National League, maybe downgrade them to AAA, whatever it is, and
Yeah,
everything like that. And of course, I was thinking about the Dodgers. What are your thoughts on the Dodgers signing Shohei Ohtani for what did he sign for, like 500 million or something?
700 million. They
700 million. That was it. I was trying to think, what did he sign for? He was like close to a billion. I'm like, what are your thoughts on that one?
they spent $1 billion on like four players. Now here's the thing: is now the target is on their back. If you don't win, what's your problem? If you lose, they're like, "What was your problem?" If you win, they're like, oh, "You're expected to win." If you lose, then they're like, "What happened?"
Hmm.
Well, any team on any given night can beat anybody. You can play up to an opponent, you can play down to an opponent on any given night. The Dodgers don't have that luxury to playing down to any opponents. They can't. There are no excuses for why they lose. So either that can work to their advantage. I don't think Arizona is going to repeat in that division. San Diego's, I don't think, is any good. I don't think Colorado's any good. I think
or or
Atlanta's.
or San Francisco. I think they made somewhat of a run, in Madison Baumgartner. That's the only one there. So yeah,
Well, I
it's just
mean,
like
they're bringing back Condoval Saval. They're bringing back, I mean, Jose Soler. Okay, but who else do you have? I mean, the Dodgers have a juggernaut. Okay, that's great, but that's on paper. They don't play on paper. You got
Mhm.
to go out and do it.
Right. And of course they have to overcome Atlanta and Philadelphia as well too. And of course, St. Louis had it down there. They generally win the division. Of course, Milwaukee, it's like, they always come up a player too short. And I was just thinking about the other day. It's like, Atlanta's the first team in baseball history to win 100 games, get bounced out of the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
100
lost.
wins back to back, and they get bounced out by Philly.
But to be fair, I agree with you. But to be fair, Atlanta's pitching wasn't great last year. I mean, they got bounced. We got bounced because it's who gets hot during the playoffs.
Right.
The season that I mean, yeah, you want to win your division, but nowadays winning your division is not necessarily a plus because it's who you get in the first round. If you get a bye, that's great. But here's the thing: is the Dodgers got a bye last year? Atlanta got a bye. Look what happened. They went what a week without playing. You lose that rhythm of playing, and you settle down, and you go to practice. Our practice is not the same thing as a game.
Right.
So there's a rhythm that you get into playing, and I think Atlanta and the Dodgers had that week off, and I think it hurt them because then they had to get up that energy again. Where the teams that are still playing,
Hmm.
they're getting that, they're getting the momentum. How do you expect a team that's been off for 2 weeks to get momentum again? And I think that's what hurt Atlanta and the Dodgers. But the Dodgers pitching outside Walker Buehler went down. That didn't help. Um, so Atlanta and the Dodgers had the same argument: is these two great teams. What happened? Well, they got beat by teams that wanted it more.
Or whoever had the rhythm and then whatever else. Milwaukee, they were about a player or two away, but they couldn't because of the money situation. And then I'm looking at the Mets, spent like a gazillion on players and literally tanked. And then they got let's see,
look at the Padres.
Right, yeah, and
the owner, no, they'll see Peter Sadler, who was the owner of the Padres, who passed away. Most people don't know this. He's the son-in-law to Peter O'Malley, the owner of the Dodgers.
How do you like that?
Can you imagine those kind of Christmases? Oh, your team. Look how great my team is.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, since your team sucks, stuff like that.
I wouldn't want that kind of Christmas. I'm sorry the owner of the Padres died, but Sadler gave all their players no trade clause contracts. So now they got a payroll in the 300 million, and he can't trade anybody because they have no trade clauses. So you got Tatis, you got Booker, you got all these guys you can't trade. Now you see a lot of teams are going, I'll give you a 1 year, I'll give you a 2 year contract. So you're not beholden to them.
Mm-hmm.
Dodgers can do what they're doing is because they are so minor league rich, they can afford to give away 2 or 3 guys and get 3 or 4 guys back. So they can replenish their minor leagues again and again and again. And the Orioles are doing the same thing. They just keep on replenishing. And most teams don't have that luxury. But for all that success, the Dodgers have 1 championship in 32 years.
Yeah, and I think it was 88, and now I'm trying to remember. I think that what was that? Not San Francisco.
Kirk Gibson hits a homer against Eckersley.
That was it. Yes, the Gibson one. Yes, I remember that one. Kirk Gibson.
If you go back and you look at the game, and if you read the book, there's a great book out about it. I have to figure out who the authors. Dave Anderson, the shortstop, is on the on-deck circle. Well, Russo sees this, saying, we can get Dave Anderson. He's a nobody. He had Anderson on there because they didn't want Oakland or anybody to realize that Gibson was up the locker room getting dressed. So they gave Oakland the impression that Anderson was going to pinch hit. He pulls Dave Anderson on and puts Mike Davis, who had played with Oakland the year before, and Mike batted 188, which was basically what my waistline was when I was 18. 188. And they said, well, Mike's not going to do anything. What does Eckersley do? He pitches around a 188 hitter. Why would you do that? Punch him out. The game's over. So he walks Mike Davis. Now Gibson, who can't even walk, and the one pitch that they told not to give Gibson, he gives him a backdoor slider. And I was in college when that happened. And I was in this rumpus room. They just had a party the night before, so they had a keg of beer sitting there, and I was knocking down beers.
Oh my gosh!
Gibson hit a home run, and I get on the phone with my dad. I call him collect in the lobby of this gym, and I'm screaming loudly, "Dad, can you believe this?" I mean, I said, "Dad, wait a minute." It's like, "Are you calling me collect?" I said, "I think you can afford it." I said, "Where are you?" It's like, I'm in the middle of this multi-purpose room, and I'm screaming up and down. There's a guy cleaning the gym, and he hears me screaming because I'm like excited about the Dodgers winning the World Series game. And I said, "Chris, your speech is a little slurred." I said, "Well, I'm drinking beer." I said, I didn't send you to college to drink beer." I said, "Dad, it's a Saturday night. And everybody's out skiing. What else do I have to do?"
Right.
And it was probably one of the best World Series ever. But the Dodgers had no business beating the A's.
Mm-hmm.
Or Hershiser has a Koufax-esque career that one year. It was 23-8. Tim Belcher, Don Sutton. I mean, it was a makeshift pitching staff. They had no business beating the Mets.
I remember Don Sutton. Yes.
I mean, Mike Scioscia hits a homer in game, what, 4 off of Dwight Gooden in the 9th inning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that doesn't happen, which only goes for what you were saying before, is on any given night, any team can beat any team. And you don't know. The Mets should have killed the Dodgers in that 88 playoffs. The Dodgers had no business beating the Mets, let alone the A's.
Mm-hmm. And the Mets were stacked back then too. You had Dwight Gooden, Darryl Strawberry,
Yep.
Keith Hernandez, and I think you had oh good Lord, I mentioned those. You had what was it? I think you had was it was it Darren Dalton? I'm trying to think of the catcher. It's like, I'm
Gary Carter.
yeah, Gary Carter. That's it. It's like I'm gonna have to start cleaning up the cobwebs and talking baseball again.
Oh, Darren Dalton. Yeah, Phillies. So yeah, I mean, I was 21 when they won 88. I was 21 years old, and it took them 30-something years to win another one. So if they do win and they start a dynasty with this team, I'll be very happy. But it's one of those things where there's a lot of pressure on Atlanta to win. They've only won one in the last time they won was 95. They only won one. They had what? The Braves went on the 14. They won 14 divisions in a row.
Yeah, they have, and I think they just had like just what one World Series to account for. They're like similar, like the Buffalo Bills, Minnesota Vikings, the Broncos that make so many appearances and come away with a title that's or even none of them.
One in was it 95 against Cleveland? I think that was their only championship. They had Maddox, you had Glavine. They should have won more, but they didn't have a bullpen.
Yeah, and I think that year too they had that baseball strike, and Cleveland was destined to win the World Series. They're getting ready, and all of a sudden they just lost their chance, and they struggled until 2016, and they're within maybe like one inning away. If it wasn't for that rainstorm they had, it's like they could have won that too. Now they have to do it under the Guardians. So we have all that, and we'll talk more baseball as well too. We get into it, and part of the book. In the meantime, where can we find your book, OMG, Harvey Korman's Son, and all your works at Chris?
You can find me on Amazon.com. You can find me at www.bearmanor, BEARMANOUR manor.com. You can find me on eBay. You can find me on Walmart.com. I mean, the publisher's got me everywhere. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I have a page called Dr. My Ear. My dad played a character named Dr. My Ear in a movie, so I named him Dr. My Ear. It's a tribute page to him and my love for all things pop culture. So I post videos of my favorite singers, Steve Lawrence, G. Gourmet, my favorite movies, and people that who just never got to meet my dad who want to engage me on Facebook and share stories, and my love for the Burnett Show, and my love for performers, and they can engage me on Facebook that way, and on LinkedIn, but mostly Facebook. And like I said, I got my Facebook page, but I also have the Dr. My Ear page, and I welcome any of your listeners to connect with me on Facebook. Just hey, look, hey, I heard your show from Mike Wagner's show. I'm a friend of Mike's. I'm one of your listeners, and his listeners. I said, and I'm going to say, fine, I'll hook them up, and I'll send them an invite to my group because it's a very friendly group. Monica Noon Dempsey and my two administrators, Alley Cat, they maintain the page for me because I can't be on there every day. I try to be. But we just maintain it, and and I try to change the picture every couple of days, so I give it a different look every day. But it's always having to do with my father or the great Haley Lamar from Blazing Saddles, and it's just an opportunity for people to engage me and share stories that never got to share because my dad passed away in 2008. So it's a connection thing for me.
Okay. All right. We'll certainly check that out. Once again, we're with the multi-talented Chris Korman of OMG. It's Harvey Korman's son here on the Mike Wagner Show. Just a few more things. And what else can we expect from you in 2024 and beyond, Chris?
Well, I'm putting together, hopefully I'll be putting together a one-man show based on the book, like a Q&A, so people can who read the book or engage me, and I have the opportunity to share stories about him or that I didn't get to share in the book. And I'm working on another book with my partner Jonathan Martin. We're writing a book about the great straight men of comedy, like Dean Martin, Bud Abbott, my father, and really celebrate the great straight men of comedy. And I hope that'll be out by next year.
Okay.
And
All
then
right.
and then where I can do free press or not free press, or press for people, for artists that don't want to break the bank and go broke. I try to service their needs press wise. And I'm busy. I'm married. I have a son. And he's in college, and my wife is an accountant and an artist herself. So we're busy doing 20,000 different things every day.
Yes, indeed. We'll certainly do that as well. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career besides your dad? Who else?
God, I say Dean Martin, John Ritter, Mel Brooks, of course, Nathan Lane, David Hyde Pierce. Those are my favorite performers.
Okay.
And I would love to go. I hope the Dodgers do come to Oakland. If Oakland ever comes here, there's some kind of legal issue with the Oakland A's here. They don't know if they're going to actually come now. But if the Dodgers ever come to Oakland, I would love to see Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts and this incredible juggernaut. But I hope the Cubs do sign Bellinger.
Oh, that would be so nice. And, maybe we can play you guys in the NLCS division playoffs. You hook me up and we can watch on Zoom or something. Maybe a few Dodger dogs or Wrigley dogs or whatever it is,
Oh,
and everything like that. And maybe they'll be playing at Legion Stadium and say, sorry, Raiders, we'll have to occupy a while, something like that. So,
well, the Raiders are not pretty much used to that stadium. I can tell you that.
oh,
They're not the greatest team in the world, but if you do come out, come out to Oakland. I mean, come out to Oakland. If you come out here to Vegas, we can get together and go to a ball game, and see Clinton and April, your friends, our mutual friends, and I've not been to a baseball game in so long, I forgot what it was like. And I got to go to 3 World Series games in '81. They beat the Yankees 3 in a row.
I remember. Yeah, the beloved Yankees.
That was fun. Watching the Dodgers beat the Yankees for any reason is fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I hope they win. If the Dodgers don't win, I root for the Cubs. My dad was the same way. If the Dodgers didn't win, he would root for the Cubs.
I think that is great advice. And speaking of advice, what is the best advice you can give to anybody at this point? Just in general.
Well, in general, well, the life credo my father instilled in me. The only time in life you ever fail is when you don't try. Just keep on going. You don't know what's possible until you try. And I wouldn't have the blessings that I have in my life. If I give up on myself, I wouldn't have the life that I have for the last 22 years in August. I wouldn't have the son that I had if I give up on myself. So that's my reward for not giving up on myself, is having the family that I have. So.
And certainly as well too. Once again, we're with the multi-talented Chris Korman of the book OMG. It's Harvey Korman's son here on the Mike Wagner Show. Chris, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot from you, and made me feel like I was getting to talk to your dad Harvey as well too. And looking forward to having again soon. Keep us up to date.
Thank you very much.
Touch.
Thank you, Mike.
And talking baseball. And one more thing, what is your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your book?
You can go to www.amazon.com, or you can go to www.bearmanor, BEARMANOUR.com. And you can find me on Facebook, Christopher Korman, or Dr. My Ear. You put in my name, you'll see pictures of me and my dad right away. You can't miss this face or my dad's face. for anything, even if you tried. And you can try me on LinkedIn as well.
Okay, we'll certainly check those out. Once again, Chris, a very big thank you for your time. You've
Thank
been
you, Mike.
absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to having soon. Just keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Live back. Wish you all the best. And Chris, you definitely have a great future ahead of you.
You too, Mike.
All right. Thanks a lot.